Well, hello everyone, and welcome to episode 000 of our brand new show, The Launch Pod. We are so glad to have you here. Tonight we're going to break down everything about what this new show is going to look like, dive into some of your guys' topics and questions, take a look at what's going on in space right now. But to start, I'm not alone for once. Super excited to be joined by my co-host for The Launch Pod. That's going to take some time to get used to. If I can bring him up, that'd be great. There we go. Is Ian Sager, and we should be able to hear him as well. Maybe not. No. See, this is why it's episode 000, because we're testing everything, and we're doing it raw in the moment. How about now say something?
Hello.
There we go. That was on
everyone.
my end.
All right.
So, yeah, LaunchPod. We've talked about this for a while. Ian and I met in September with before that, but in person in September with Inspiration 4, because he was part of that, and that was amazing, and kind of dreamt this up and thought, why not get a couple people together that love space every week to, one, answer you guys' topics and questions, but just talk about everything space, because there's so much going on. So, Ian, why don't they somewhat know me? Why don't you give a quick little intro of who is Ian?
All right. Sure. So I just graduated with my degree in astronomy and physics. I currently work at an Apple store, and I'm kind of like a lifelong space fan. So started watching every launch live that I could. Remember the day that SpaceX landed their first booster. And all the other large milestones past that point. Of course, went to Inspiration 4, went to Demo 2, and hoping to go to many more launches in the future, and glad to be a part of the Launch Pod. So thanks for having me.
I think that transition worked. Yay. It's great when it works. Yeah, I'm excited about this. I think a lot of people have asked us for some sort of weekly thing that's a little more not super structured, where we'll go through all the space news of the week, but where we can kind of go through what's happened and then looking forward to it. Obviously, start of the year. So I figured to start off, we'll run through kind of how some of the links you guys will see in the description work for the future episodes, on how you guys can actually be part of the Launch Pod, and then kind of maybe go through kind of our top 5 things we're looking forward to this week or this year. I know there's like a billion on my list, but to give you an idea of what is that link, there's a pinned link in the chat, and there's also a couple links in the description. We're going to do this show a little bit differently than our normal live shows, and we think you guys will be able to get involved a little bit more. We're always going to be reading that chat and trying to keep up with it, but if you guys ever have a question, a comment, or something that you want read out on the show, as long as it's appropriate or something like that, you can head over to the pinned link in the chat or in the description to our Stream Elements page and send it in there. That way, when you send that in, you do include helping support the channel with a tip of at least $1, but it's not like YouTube where you have to pay so much to send so many words. It's a minimum $1, and you can send in the maximum amount of words that you can. If it doesn't fit, send in multiple, and then we'll pull those up and read those on future streams. But at the start of all our future episodes, we're going to go through kind of 3 or 4 main topics of the biggest stories of the week in space news. And if you guys have a topic that you want us to cover, maybe it's something we haven't done a flash news update yet on, or something that you're hearing, you can send that to us anytime over on the Launchpad website. You can go to thelaunchpadofficial.com, or that's linked down below as well. Go to the Launchpod page, and there's a submit form, and you can send those topics in for free. And if we select yours, you'll get a shout out on the stream. So try something different, see how it goes, and we want to hear your guys' feedback in the comments. So after the stream, let us know what you liked, what you didn't like, what you changed, because we want this to be a community thing that we get together once a week and just talk about everything space. But that's the basic stuff. If you still want to send in questions with super chats, you still can do that. The reason we're using the other one is then your money actually goes to us and not to YouTube. And we feel like you probably want your money going to us and not them. So we've set up that other option for you guys. But with that, Ian, what would be your number 5 thing looking forward to this year?
Number 5 being the least excited, or number 5 being the most excited?
The least of your top 5.
Oh, okay. I have to think of what my top 5 would be and then start the order from number 5. I also do want to mention your picture is frozen. Everybody, we are aware of that. Thank you for sending those messages in.
You guys just get to see my random faces. I'm very much waiting for a day that somebody sends me a meme of my face. That because there's been some very special moments. This is one of the things we will be upgrading in the studio immediately at the beginning of this year, is a new camera, because this one's not doing it.
To answer your question, now that I've had a second to think about it, I'm going to go with, I don't know if New Glenn is slated for 2022 launch, but if so, I would pin that as my number 5.
That's fair. New Glenn. I should have thought of these questions too.
Yeah, I'm going to pin it right back at you. What's your number 5?
Go through your list, and then I'll go through mine now.
Okay.
Number 5... I feel like I'm almost going the same way, but with Vulcan. So the opposite. Will the engines show up? Like, I hope they do, but will they actually be there? So that'd be...
Do you know why Vulcan for me might be a little bit higher than number 5?
Because you have insight and you know where the engines are.
Oh, I wish. No, because Vulcan 1 is going to be the astrobotic launch, and I have a payload. So pretty jazzed about that. But
it's segue. Tell us about this payload.
So a little too late to join now. Maybe we'll do something again in the future. Who knows? But I had bought a little space, enough for a little SD card, put a bunch of names, photos, videos, and other random junk on there. It's integrated into the Peregrine 1 lander that's going to go on the moon whenever Vulcan is ready. And it'll serve as like a permanent time capsule for the people around my area and all my friends and family who wanted to join in on the project. So very excited to see that launch whenever it decides to.
Yeah, when were they originally targeting the Vulcan launch?
They were, if I remember correctly, originally targeting, I think, September of last year.
Okay.
Or no, I'm sorry. Yeah, so 2021, because we're 2022 now. September last year, and then I got moved to December, and now it's sometime in the spring, maybe. There's not really a clear answer to that. So
sounds about right. I think we got an important question in the chat. What happened to your furniture?
Oh, okay, yeah. So this will not be my permanent set. This is my office, and I do have furniture and stuff on the walls, but it's off to the side and in front of me, so you can't see it. So for next week, I'm going to work on potentially moving my desk and making this place look a little bit better. I know this isn't the best. I'll get there. Just give me some time.
Keep stalling. I'm fixing my camera. No.
Okay, okay. Well, I'm reading another question. They said, love the idea of the time capsule. What was the cost? So it actually wasn't too bad. This was something that I guess I had assumed, oh, if I want to send something to space, let alone the moon, the costs are going to be astronomical. But going on to their website, Astrobotic had partnered with DHL, the shipping company, specifically to sell these spaces to the public. And I bought the smallest space, which actually was smaller than an SD card that would not fit. So I ended up getting something called a nano SD card that's made for Huawei phones and like an expanded storage. And I think if I remember correctly, it was $400. So definitely not cheap, but not crazy for sending something to the moon. So yeah, you can do it.
Which is just crazy that you can actually you bought a payload to the moon. Like
Yeah,
that's crazy. In 1 year, you bought a payload to the moon, and then you almost went to space in a year.
yeah, yeah.
That's a pretty
And
crazy year to beat.
to anybody that is interested, and this is why I say maybe we can do something on our end, who knows? They're still selling spots on their second lander. I don't know what the name of the second lander is or when it's slated to launch, but I think it's an ongoing thing where they're subsidizing by selling spots to the public. If anybody's interested in doing a payload, search Moonbox Astrobotic and it'll pop up somewhere. So good luck.
Well, we're talking after the show because we're gonna do something. I don't know how much
Sounds
it
good to
is.
me.
I don't know numbers, but we're gonna do something because I want to just say I sent a payload to the moon on the second year of the launch pad.
Yeah,
That
that's pretty
sounds like a
cool.
milestone, right? Yeah, absolutely. Number four coming up in this year. Your number four thing that you're excited about.
Okay, my number four thing that I am excited about would be I'm gonna throw you off a little bit maybe and say SLS. Only because I think the chances of it happening this year are getting slimmer and slimmer. I know it's like we're still supposed to have ample time, but I'm pessimistic, I guess. But also because we're not sending people to the moon, we're sending something around to the moon. So it's still a big step, but nothing too crazy until we start to do more with SLS. So I think it's cool, but that's going to be in my number four.
It makes sense. I'm getting worried about those SRBs, knowing that I think it's this week past the 1 year normal expiration, and they're like, we can do 18 months now, and they didn't say we could do that the entire shuttle era. Makes me a little bit more concerned. Number four. I'm trying to think of my order. Yeah. I really should have thought of this earlier. I'm excited to see, I think, what developments we see at Kennedy. Um, it's not really a launch, but I think it'll be really interesting to see what happens with the future of Pad 49A, the future of Pad 39A with the development of Starbase. Like, if we look at how quickly they've developed Starbase since just a year ago, they can move pretty quick when they want to. So I think it'll be interesting to see that. I've been diving into kind of the master plans of Kennedy. It's not as exciting as a lot of reading, but it's really interesting to see that they're planning for a future that isn't NASA Kennedy Space Center first. It's everyone else first, and they're just a customer. And I think it's going to be really weird to talk about Kennedy Space Center, which will eventually get a new name, where NASA's just a customer. They're not actually it's not a NASA property per se. I think just infrastructure wise interested to see what happens because it's going to change and it's going to change fast as we see all these other rockets start to come online with New Glenn and then Vulcan. Like we're going to see other than Falcon, every rocket that launches from Kennedy is going to change in the next couple of years, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, so I'm going to piggyback off of that on top of the launch pads changing and then who's going to be going up. The Space Center itself, open to the public, is going to change a little bit because they're currently adding a new area specifically for SpaceX. And I am so jazzed to go over there and see a booster real life in person. I've seen one before, but this one's going to be flown, if I'm correct. So, little cool.
The one at Gateway.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I've been watching the photos of that one getting installed, and it's really interesting comparing it to what they've done at Hawthorne and Houston, where Hawthorne it's just standing vertical outside, so you really get that standing at the base of a rocket feel. In Houston, it's laid flat outside in just a fenced area. I guess they have good enough weather that they're not worried about it. But people are jumping and like writing their names in the side of the soot that's still there. Where Gateway, they're really trying to protect it and putting it inside a facility. And it is a previously flown. It was one of the Falcon Heavy side boosters, if I'm correct, that they're going to be using from the first Falcon flight. I'd have to double check the serial number, but yeah, it's going to be amazing to get to see that in person and that close because it's going to pretty much match Houston for almost being able to reach out and touch it.
Oh, I thought it was hanging like pretty high from the ceiling.
It's a 2-story building, so it's kind of like the shuttle one, from what I can tell,
Oh,
where
okay.
you
That
can
makes
be
more
really
sense.
close at some points and then like quite a ways. It's kind of like a mini shuttle building. It looks pretty big, but it's hard to tell from the actual outside because it just fit through the door. It
Yeah.
barely got through the door when they brought that in. It was like maybe should have brought that in a little earlier.
Yeah, so somewhere out there, I'm sure you've probably seen it, but to the audience, there's actually a time lapse video of them getting it in, and they had to make quite a few maneuvers to get that thing to fit. So,
Yeah, I know there
um,
was a lot of excitement when we were down there for Inspiration 4 because that's when it actually showed up. And everybody wasn't sure what this booster was for. And everyone's like, is it for a launch? Is it a Falcon Heavy booster? Oh, why is it standing on the side of the road for no reason? Because I know Gabriel Brown was heading out to the pad at one point, and he's on Twitter being like, yeah, it's pretty good when your bus has to pull over because a Falcon 9 has to drive by. Which I'm like, that's a pretty good world. I'm waiting for a Starship to drive by. That's going to be an exciting moment.
well, at least you got to see Starship. I still have to make my way down there at some point.
Soon, come down for the orbital launch. We need all hands
Yeah.
on deck.
Well, not to spoil it, but that's my number one right there. So-
I feel like that's probably everybody's number one is Starship this year. I don't know if I said 4. I think I did.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
we
did.
did 4. My number
Yeah.
3 would then be I'm I'm tied. I think I'm gonna break it and say my number 3 is going to be the Vulcan for again personal reasons. That's yeah, solid. That's my number 3. How about you?
I'm tied for number 2 and 3 between SLS and Falcon Heavy. Solely because
Oh, yeah.
SLS is going to be the closest I'll ever get to seeing a shuttle launch and having that kind of same experience, where Falcon Heavy is Falcon Heavy. Like
Mhm.
he can't really beat it. So those are, I guess, my two that are kind of tied because I think SLS is going to be really amazing to see, and that's going to be our experience of getting to see something like Apollo. We've never really seen. We'll see if Starship goes first. Kind of doubt it at this rate, but we've never seen a rocket that scale launch. Let alone how close we might be able to be to it if they open up like the viewing areas we think they will at Kennedy, to see that launch there. So it's kind of a tie between, I think, Falcon Heavy, like we know what we can expect with it, but it's still gonna be cool to see it in person. Versus that's a super heavy lift vehicle that's going to the moon. That we could have put people on if we trusted it enough, and we don't. But so I'm a tie there.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's fair. Like I said, I was a tie too. I already gave away my number 1. And to answer your question, Matthew, my personal prediction of when that's going to launch is probably April. Zach and I had talked about this before. I think Elon's going to aim for 420. I totally agree. I that's going to happen. In
He's
terms
got to
of
at this point. With the FAA delaying end of February, it takes about a month to get a launch license. Okay, now you're the end of March. You really not going to hold off 2 more weeks to launch Booster 420 on 420. Like, this is Elon and SpaceX we're talking about. It's gotta happen.
Yeah, it's gonna happen. So we'll see. That's our prediction. My number two is actually going to be James Webb. I'm very excited to see it functional and excited to see the first data come from it. I mentioned I got my physics and astronomy degree. I got a lot of research done with space telescopes. So I'm not going to be following up with that degree, at least for the time being. So I won't be doing anything professionally with the data coming from James Webb. But my entire high school and college career, I was like so excited to work with that stuff. So for my previous colleagues and the people I still keep up with, I know that data is going to be invaluable, and I can't wait for it to start flowing in. Everyone's going to be so excited, so I'm going to be so excited. And that's my number two.
I didn't even think about putting James Webb in mind. That's a good
Oh,
one.
what, James Webb has taken up your life for the past week, and you didn't think about it?
That's true. It's just there. It's like the family. They're always there. That it just becomes neutral. But yeah, hopefully primary mirror starts deployment tomorrow. But they've passed 85%, I believe it is, of the 344 failure points. So they're feeling good that at this point,
they said that they were going
happens.
to start doing the primary mirror unfolding on Saturday.
Well, maybe they're giving their people a break. They've worked pretty hard this week. So it's possible. I mean, yeah, that's 2 days. That would work. Because originally it was tomorrow, but then they worked for like 2 days through the night to make sure they were ready to do the secondary mirror after they had the delay of the sun shield. So I think they're kind of shifting it to make sure that they're ready for that L2 insertion, and they'd rather be done early. But we'll see what happens. It's NASA. They'll tweet us an hour before they go live to tell us they're actually doing it. But no, it's going to be amazing seeing that data start to come in. But I think for a lot of people working on that team now, knowing that no matter what happens, they have a telescope that is going to get some sort of data. Like, the mirror is going to give us the most amount of data and the best quality imagery. And I don't know the telescopes, you know that. But they said at this point, if anything fails, there will be at least some sort of data we can collect from it. Type of thing, that they'll have at least some level of emissions. So that's a pretty big success in itself. But we know the primary mirror is going to work. It's two little flaps. We know how to do flaps, right?
Yeah, it's not any complicated origami, so I'm feeling a little bit better about it.
Yeah, that sunshield origami was interesting. And what got me slightly nervous was when we actually had some of the James Webb team in the chat on the tracker, and they're like, so you guys know, that animation is backwards. And the animation we got was directly from the James Webb team media department. And he's like, yeah, we don't deploy the sun shields one at a time like this. We do one, and then we do the next, and then we do the next. He's like, we don't know why that animation was ever made, because it's totally wrong. And I was like, hopefully no one else slipped up there. But yeah, I think number one, like you, Starship, seeing that flight. Obviously it would have been nice to see the booster come back and attempt a landing, but I mean, maybe we'll see that by the end of the year at the speed they're going. Maybe even by summer we'll see a second Starship orbital attempt. So we'll see what happens. But seeing question comes in, Peter, who are these people and why should I listen to them? We are two people that love space, and this is our new show/podcast. I guess that's one thing I didn't mention at the top. If you ever can't watch the launch pod live, or you don't want to watch the video replay, maybe you're at the gym or working out or driving to work, we are going to release every episode. Maybe we'll do this one over on all the audio platforms. So those links will be in the description in the future, so you guys can listen to the audio only format of this if you're on the go, because we know everyone lives in a crazy busy world. But for those just joining, hello, I'm Zach. I'm the founder and host of the Launch Pad and everything we do, and joined by Ian, who's joining us as a co-host for the Launch Pod. And this is going to be a new weekly show that we do at the same time, same place, right here on YouTube, where we talk about everything that's kind of happening that week in space. Maybe have some guests in the future. And then the biggest chunk of the night, which I think we'll kind of transition into for you guys, is you guys can send in your guys' comments, questions, topics, all that stuff. In the future, if you have a topic you want to send in, you can send that over on our website. The link's below. And you can send that in anytime during the week. And then we're going to select a few of your guys' topics for main points on every episode. And then then if you guys have questions, you can send those in the chat or in the pinned link in the chat. We will prioritize ones that are sent through the link and super chats, but we'll still try to get through everything. But it's a great way of supporting us and getting us on the ground to bring you the best possible live coverage of kind of everything space. And it's going to be a busy year. I did rough calculations, and there's like at least probably like 8 or 9 launches that I want to go to this year. And I'm like, I might not be home as much as I think. So we need to work on the portable studio and get that going and stuff. But we're excited for that there. Great to see so many regulars, though, jumping on here. Great to have you all here. And yeah, if you guys have questions, though, send those in. You can also tag us at the Launchpad. That makes it easier for us to find those. And we'll take a little bit of time, answer you guys' questions, and then maybe wrap it up for 000. This was just kind of getting out there, letting you guys know what's going to happen in the future, and going from there. I see Julian is asking, how many conversations will have been on the JW feed when the telescope reaches its final point? I know I saw earlier you said you clicked like at 1,000. It's amazing to see how many has gone from there. I can look it up and tell you how many people have... I might be able to look up and tell you how many messages have been sent. We do have our map on, so if you want to see where people have been, go to the JWST tracker, put exclamation point map, click that link, and you can see a map of where everyone is tuning in from. But yeah, we're well over 4 million have joined in that stream since it started, which is absolutely incredible that many people are so excited about a telescope that's floating in space. Yeah, 4.7 million people have joined the chat, and 43.7 million people have seen it, which is absolutely blows my mind that many people are on YouTube and are looking at something that maybe thinks they like telescopes. So I know we were talking to some of the James Webb team, and they were even blown away with the number of people tuning into NASA's feed for, we're opening a sun shield, we're tightening some cables, and there's millions of people watching. So they're pretty excited that people are behind them for these kind of monumental moments there.
Oh, I want to take a second. We got our first donation from Richie. I just want to say thank you for that. That's awesome.
Thanks, Richie. And Richie, it's your birthday. That's not what you're supposed to do on your birthday. We're supposed to do it the other way. But happy birthday, Richie, and thank you for supporting the new show. I see a question here from Virginia. Where did you get your physics degree? What school?
Yeah, so LSU, go Tigers. And I just graduated about 2 weeks ago, so I've got a fresh degree.
Nice. So what's next? The question that everyone's asking you that you probably don't want to answer.
Yeah, because there's not really an answer. So like I mentioned, right now I'm working at Apple. I I love the job. We'll see where it takes me. Also still looking around. But honestly, I'm very excited to get more involved with this channel and see what I can do more in the space community. So even though I won't be going officially with my degree in terms of academics, my heart's still very much in it. So we'll see where that takes me. I don't know.
Well, I'm excited to have you here. I know we talked about it quite a bit on the thing. Peter, Discord mod on the left, average Joe on the right. Yes, I'd say we both. I would say it's the other way. Average Joe on the left, educated college grad on the right in the industry.
It says the guy with a budding YouTube channel, doing real great over there.
It's been pretty fun, but we'll see where this year goes. Lots to learn and study, but excited for it. If you guys have questions, you can send those in the chat, and we'll answer those, or we'll call it a little bit for that. I know you guys didn't have much notice that this was happening. We've kind of teased it for a bit, so that's why we wanted to do episode 000 next week. There's gonna be a lot more. We're gonna have stuff to look at, a whole bunch of stuff, so we're excited for that. Again, if you're just joining us, though, you can send in your topics for future shows on our website, thelaunchpadofficial.com, or you can send in questions or comments any time during the week through our Stream Elements link, and then those get all saved up for the next week's show.
Zach, I don't think you ever officially said what your number 2 was.
Oh, my number 2? It was. I guess it would be tied. Three, like 2 and 3 were tied, but I guess I could pick a different two, because 2 and 3 would take the same spot. Because those were SLS and Falcon. Um, Not to jump on Starship, but I think I'm hoping for a Starship presentation, because Elon said if he didn't do one by the end of last month, he would do it by the next month, which is the end of January. So, fingers crossed, we get
Yeah,
a
well, that's
Starship update
also
this month.
that's Elon timeline, so that's still
So
subject to being pushed
September.
back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll see when it happens. I think it's going to depend on the FAA. I think they were thinking, okay, we're going to get the FAA approval on December 31st. Great, we can have a Starship update with a fully stacked Starship, and then like 2 days later, maybe do the launch. That way, all the media is already there. Because I hope they're going to do a big media thing for this. If not, we're going to be there on a beach looking at it one way or another. They can't keep us away. But I'm hoping there's media access that we can go for. Marcus continuing the rug fund. If you don't know what this rug fund is, join the Discord, which is free to do so. Is I have a floor, and they would like the camera a little bit higher, but I don't want to show my floor, so they're all trying to buy me a rug. Rug fund. The things that happen on YouTube. The real YouTube's asking, are you going to get your master's degree? Have you ever thought about going back and doing it further?
Okay, yeah, I've thought about it. Honestly, I don't know if I would get it. Well, I know I'm not going to do it in physics, possibly astronomy. I've actually been thinking a lot if I were to go back to school doing a science communications degree, because I love talking about this stuff. And I feel like there's a growing community of people that are getting better and better at covering this from the public's point of view, and I definitely want to be a part of that. So that would lend me a little bit more credence, and I'd be more polished in what I do. So yeah, it's a possibility.
I'd say it was pretty good. You did an interview, I know, about the Inspiration 4 trip and everything that happened there and stuff, so that makes sense. But we got you here. You don't need the degrees here. It's just a
Are you
piece of
sure
paper.
you don't require that on my resume when I applied?
Well, just remember, this is a probationary period, so in 3 months
Okay,
it
yeah.
goes to a YouTube vote, and then we decide, does Ian stay or go? No.
Okay,
No,
that's fair enough. That's fair enough.
SpaceX fan, who is the new friend? This is Ian Sager. He's going to be joining the team. Super excited about that. And joining me weekly here for the launch pod. And then, as schedules go, maybe for other stuff in the future as well. And then hopefully down there at Starbase for that orbital flight test that happens.
100%.
Michael saying, you think people are excited now? Wait until the first picks from the other side of the universe come in. Astronomers and astrophysicists will be... Yeah, I can't imagine what we're going to see from James Webb. I know we were asking some people in the YouTube chats, what do you think will be the first images we see? Like, what do you hope's the first thing we see coming back from James Webb?
Yeah, myself personally, I'm a little biased. My research was specifically, well, my personal research was with exoplanets. So I have a big fond part of my heart with that. I know they're probably not going to do exoplanets first. The big kicker with James Webb is just how sensitive it is to infrared. So they're probably going to try and look at the oldest galaxies they can, just as a good like bang coming right out of the gate. But yeah, I'm personally really excited to see if they can try and focus on some better exoplanet research.
So, do you believe there's a Planet 9?
Oh yeah, I mean we've kind of shown definitively that, well, we've calculated pretty definitively, I think, that it should be there. That being said, I think its inclination had lent it to being like a orbital period on the order of a few thousand years or something like that, which would mean highly elliptical and very far away and dark. So I don't know if in my lifetime we're ever going to observe it, but I think it's there. I hope that one day we can show people that it's there.
So you think like we're all in this normal little orbit, and then there's the random Pluto one, which okay, Pluto, planet, not planet.
Not planet. No, if you look at the definition of a planet, Pluto's not a planet. The only reason it was considered a planet was because we didn't know that there were other planets out there at the time. You might think it's commonplace now to think like, oh, other planets that like obviously there's other planets, but if you rewind a few decades, it was very contentious that there were exoplanets at all. I would think it's a no-brainer, but anyway, now that we know a lot more about planets and what defines an actual planet versus something that would be more akin to what Oort cloud or stellar debris left over from formation, it just doesn't qualify. It's not like it can't pull things into its orbit. Um, it's super far away. It doesn't have I don't think it has active tectonics. It's not like spherical, which of course Earth isn't, but it's even less. It really doesn't qualify. As much as that hurts to say, because I grew up saying that Pluto was a planet. Believe me, I want to say it, but it's really not.
So okay, Pluto's not a planet. So you think we're all in this little circle, and then Planet Nine just does this big elliptical, like way. How would that? How would it
Yeah,
stay? I guess my mind is how does that stay?
well,
Like,
I mean, unless it like hits things or it goes near something with a lot of gravity, it can stay. My guess would be early in the formation of our solar system, it would have just gotten gravitationally flung somehow. Weird things happen when the solar system's forming. That's how we got our moon. We had another planet like bash into us, and then it just kind of got together and started orbiting. So, yeah, I mean, depending on what its orbit is, like let's say it goes nowhere near Jupiter or Saturn, there's not really a chance for it to change. It just keeps going, and then hopefully in 1,000 years we'll see it.
yeah, I know. Talking to some of the James Webb team, they're all hoping. They don't think we'll discover Planet Nine, like its location from James Webb, but they think we'll do that from some of the ground stations and telescopes, and then that they'll able to aim James Webb in that direction and hopefully capture something of it. So it'll be interesting because I mean, I feel like James Webb is going to rewrite every chapter of the science textbook in anything to do with space and astronomy over the next kind of decade's lifespan, or hopefully more, because it's going to look so far back. Like you're mentioning the development of solar systems and stuff. You know, we're going to see the development of whole galaxies and planetary classes, and I'm excited to see what comes out of it. I don't think we fully know what we're going to get out of it, just like Hubble.
Yeah, I mean, when we launched Hubble, we definitely had an idea of here's what we're gonna do, and then one day for kicks, they're like, let's point it at nothing and see what happens. And then we got a lot of stuff, and we're like, oh wow, the possibilities of what we can do now are so much more infinite than we had imagined. So I'm hoping the same happens with James Webb. Yeah, I really can't wait. That's why it's my number two.
Dan saying, "What do you think the spread of mass to orbit will look like in 5 years?" Oh, okay. In launches. Okay, Falcon 9, X% Falcon 9, YCZ. China, maybe?
Oh, okay, wait, I see this. What do you think the spread of mass to orbit will look like in 5 years, i.e., whatever percent Falcon 9, whatever percent? Yeah, I don't
I'm
know what
thinking
CZ
China
is.
because I'm thinking China because China was the leader this year. I think the U.S. will pass China next year in just number of launches. For actual mass, well, if we have the super heavy launch vehicles, I think it'll be pretty quick that the U.S. would take kind of the cake with that. I don't think it'll be Falcon 9 though. Falcon Heavy's gonna be carrying a lot. We've got 5 or 6 this year, 2 or 3 the year after that, and like 8 I think it is the next year. So we're gonna enter an age of Falcon Heavies, which is awesome. And then once Starship's online, they're gonna be launching thousands of Starlinks, hopefully a month, to do this. No, we are not sponsored by Ice. Unfortunately, not Seltzer. Sparkling Ice. But if they would like to call, send us an email. Uh, Jordan, I'm a new follower within the last 3 weeks. I'm really digging the channel. I can't wait to see you grow and mature. Thanks so much, Jordan. Appreciate it. Real YouTube, excellent. We love you here, but breaking down space stuff in plain English would be good. Yeah, absolutely. We'll always try to work on that. Uh, Catching up on the comments here because there's a few.
Yeah, and I'll do my best to try and dumb down the things that I say too, because it's really a goal of mine to communicate better in terms of talking about space. Hence why I was thinking about the degree too. So,
Yeah, some of it you can, some of it you really can't. I guess one important definition: what is an exoplanet?
oh, okay, great. An exoplanet is any planet that is not in our solar system. So there we go. And our solar system is anything that has orbit around our star, the sun. That's as simple as it gets.
So if it's around a different star, what
If
would
it's a
we call
planet
it?
around a different star, it will be an exoplanet. And we actually know of, let's see, closest exoplanet is going to be in Alpha Centauri, which is, I think, 4.2 or 4.5 light years away. So that's pretty cool. I hope genuinely that within my lifetime, Project Starshot, I think is what it's called. That's where they're going to have like nano satellites with like foil parasails, for lack of a better term, that are going to use stellar radiation to push themselves out and possibly lasers as like extra momentum, shoot themselves to another solar system at a pretty high percentage speed of light, way faster than we can do with current rockets. And then take pictures and measurements and just send hundreds and thousands of these things instead of just like one big telescope or mission. And then hopefully we can actually get data directly from another solar system and maybe take a look at those exoplanets.
So Alpha Centauri is the star. What do we call that
Oh,
system,
it's
or is Alpha Centauri the system?
I no, no, yeah, Alpha Centauri is the star. I think the planets themselves are TRAPPIST, if I'm correct. It's like TRAPPIST A, B, C, D. There's quite a few planets there, and I think two of them, as far as we're aware, uh, have a possibility of having life just off of the fact that they're in the Goldilocks zone. And to define that as well, the Goldilocks zone is the area around the star where it's not too cold and it's not too hot for there to be liquid water. And that's our simplest way of predicting that there will be life there, because wherever on Earth there is liquid water, we typically find life.
Got it. One kind of question comment from Julian: is there a tag for Ian? If you tag at the launchpad or you tag at Ian Sager, either of those, it'll come up. If you tag launchpad, it goes orange on my end. If you tag Ian, it goes orange on his end. And we're working to see if there's a way we can do like an at question or something. So if you know how to do that, let us know in the chat. I know we got a few people in here that have done a few streams themselves. Michael, Pluto qualifies as a planetoid. It acts like a comet or an asteroid that has settled in a solar orbit.
Yeah, that's very accurate. I agree.
Yeah. Jordan, what really helped me learn about space trajectory and how objects moved in space is Kerbal. I feel like Kerbal's something we're going to have to pull up every now and again just for demonstration purposes.
Do we know when Kerbal 2 is slated? Because I know it's been announced and I've been waiting
Two
and waiting
years
and waiting.
ago.
I don't know if there's a date.
It was 2 years ago. They haven't put out a new date. They keep delaying it. They finally did the last update to the current Kerbal, and that was probably about 6 months ago now. So
Okay.
they put all their team onto the new Kerbal. So I feel like they're gonna target like a Christmas season for release, just because it's gonna be that big of a thing that people buy as gifts, or maybe summer. But I feel like Christmas is just that prime time to release a game like that, because I don't think it's gonna be cheap. Just for how
It,
big of a redo is. Like, it's not an expensive game to start with, but I don't think you're going to see promo
yeah.
codes every other weekend for it.
I think they're gonna try and go AAA with it, so probably 59.99 is my guess. And Jordan Springer in the chat says their website says Kerbal 2 comes out in 2022. So whatever that means, hopefully sometime this year.
As long as they're not on an Elon timeline, then we're good.
Yeah, let's hope.
Uh,
Let's see, I'll take this one. So Joe Little, even if we get there and can transmit data, it would take 8.4 years to turn around time between transmissions. Yeah, so that would be assuming that we got there in like 4.1 light years, which is definitely not going to happen. It's probably going to take us 4, maybe 5 times that long to get there. When I say high percentage speed of light, I think our current rockets are doing, or I wouldn't even say rockets. I would say like Voyager 2, I think is one of the fastest moving things that we currently have. And I think that's maybe like 0.1 or 0.2% the speed of light. So the speed of light is a very large number. I anticipate that Project Starshot will maybe get close to like 20%. So let's be optimistic and say it's going to take like, I don't know, 30, 40 years to get there. And then, yeah, for the data to transmit back, it's going to take another 4 years. So maybe in 45 years, we'll be able to see our first bits of data from that mission. So assuming we can launch it within the next decade, that's why I say I hope that we can do that in my lifetime, because that's really starting to push it. I'm getting pretty old at that point. So we'll see.
And will you just download your consciousness onto a stick and then into like one of those Tesla bots, and then you'll just be here forever?
That would be nice. Well, one of the things that I had uploaded on that nano SD that's going to go to the moon is a copy of my entire sequence genome. So if they want to just clone me, it wouldn't be my same mental state, but there would be an Ian Sager that can hopefully witness that data.
That's just crazy that that's something that you actually did, and that you're actually sending a payload to the moon, and that we will hopefully do one in the next couple of years when the next one goes. But that's just still crazy to me that that is the moon's accessible. The moon is becoming accessible, and I said this on a previous stream, flying home from Inspiration 4. We had the most beautiful moonrise happening on the right side of our plane, and it's like 10, 11 p.m. Pilot's not going to wake up the plane for anything unless they're needed. And he turned the lights on and made an announcement. It was like, for those, awake now, look out to the right side of your plane. He's like, one of the most beautiful moonrises that he'd seen. And it was funny coming from Inspiration 4, having seen that and then seeing Starbase, now being on this plane and seeing the curvature of the Earth a little bit and the moon, and knowing, we just knew people that had just been up, how accessible it felt. And then, knowing you sending a payload, it's like sending a package overseas to Europe 10 years ago used to be this big haul thing that no one wanted to do at the holiday season. But I was like, no, you just bought room on a moon lander, no, just a normal thing that you do from your home.
Yeah, casual.
Just casual. Next stop, Mars. When they start opening payloads to Mars, we will try to be on that number one flight. That would be interesting to see. But nice. A Voyager, I don't have Voyager 2 speed. Voyager 1 is moving 17 kilometers a second, but the speed of light is 300,000 kilometers a second. So
yeah, so Voyager 2 is at 15 kilometers per second right now.
So it's got a little bit more to go. It's like, a hundredth of the speed of light. 100,000th of the speed of light. Which
so I was a little off even with my low estimate. We're talking like 0.01%, something like that.
Something like that. But we'll figure it out at that point. Robert, why do we get upset over an adjective? Let them call it a dwarf planet or a small planet or a teeny planet. It's still a planet. No one's disputing that. For Pluto, I'm pretty sure Ian just disputed it.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure the scientific community at large has disputed it. That being said, there's always going to be a movement that wants us to reinstate it as a full planet, but it doesn't have the proper characteristics of being a planet is really the issue. It's not so much an emotional thing, but a logical. It just doesn't make sense, especially when we compare it to other planets that we now know exist. So, sorry, Pluto.
W. Hollenbeck asks, is Elon Musk planning to leave this planet because he secretly knows it's doomed? Well, I don't want you all to go cash in your stocks and sell your houses or anything, but there is a asteroid that in my lifetime will have three classes. One is concerning and 2 is extremely concerning. Now we're talking decades from now. And I've held off doing a video on it because I don't want it to be a video that the algorithm picks up and we cause panic. But in like 50, 60 years, there's an asteroid, Bennu, that is going to get rather close that scientists don't like. Is there a reason we are seeing all these countries starting to do asteroid redirection tests? China's doing one. The US just launched DART. ESA is working on one. Maybe. there could be some realistics to this. Why is Elon rushing to get 1 million people on Mars by 2050 when the first pass is kind of in the 60s? There's a possibility that people are worried about it, but I don't think it's going to hit us. I think we got enough time to figure out what we're doing, but it's still like 1 in 100,000 or 50,000 or something that it hits us on the 2 close passes when we're pretty much dead. But it's still close that we're concerned about it, and that would be they think extinction level event based on the size of it. I think Elon just wants to push us forward to being a more advanced civilization. I think not that we've been stagnant, we've seen a lot of tech development, but as a species, we haven't really evolved a whole lot. And I think when we start moving off to living on the moon and Mars, some of the little things that we always argue about start to dissolve away because you start looking at that bigger picture. But I don't know. What do you think? Why do you think Elon's in such a rush to get to Mars?
I think it's just because Mars is cool, honestly. I mean, he does genuinely have the idea that we need to become multiplanetary because Earth is not going to be a forever thing. And I subscribe to that idea too. I think it's really good. I think it's more so we're starting to see the tide change with this now, but at the time that he founded SpaceX and through most of SpaceX's history, um, people just didn't really care about sending people beyond Earth anymore. If I were him, putting myself in his shoes, I would guess it would be more of a personal endeavor that he wants to push this almost stagnant industry forward in a way that people thought just wasn't possible or practical and make it both possible and very practical. So now that it is, it's more of a fulfillment of that promise, but then also pairing it up with the inevitability that it just makes sense for us to leave Earth, especially with what we know is going on. So let's do it now. Let's not wait.
If you had to board a rocket right now and you could pick anyone in the world, not Starship because we don't that functions or
Yeah,
semi functions, what would you ride on?
100% Falcon 9 Inspiration 4 style with the cupola. That's what I want to do.
Me too. That cupola was just incredible.
Yeah, every now and then I see because they still have videos and photos that they've never shown the public, and they'll put it on Twitter and say like, "Oh, this was very cool. Let's take a look at what happened." And from certain angles, it genuinely looks like they're just floating in space until you see them move the camera slightly and you realize that oh, they're in the Falcon 9 or oh, there's a glare. There's obviously some glass there, but I can't imagine what it was like just being there and all around you only seeing space like you're in space in a spacewalk except you don't have the view of the helmet blocking you and all like it's rigid and it's so cool. I want to be able to experience that one day.
Yeah, I hope we see because Axiom's going to the station, so I'm interested to see who's the next person to do a mission like Inspiration 4. Will it be a little longer? What's going to happen? Because we know they really pushed the boundaries for the altitude on this one. Could they push the time of length of stay on board? I feel like that's a long time for 4 people to be like having stood next to a Falcon. It's big, but it's small. Like the actual size of the capsule. Like there's not a ton of room. And I don't know about that toilet situation. Just the piece of sheet fabric. And then their toilet broke. Like that's the best part that it broke.
They're saying
during
that they
that.
fixed it now, so hopefully that's not an issue with any future missions. But using it at all is a little iffy.
I think I'd be too distracted looking out the window. Treasury Dives, thank you so much for that super chat for for the rug fund. Can't wait to see some awesome launches this year. Yeah, it's gonna be a year full of launches. It'll be very interesting to see. FYI, Ian's voice has. How big of a delay are you guys seeing on Ian's? Because then we can see if we can patch it in better for the next one.
Yeah, we're gonna work out all the kinks for next time, guys. But we appreciate all the feedback.
Yeah, the half of this stuff you can make it look good in OBS, but until you actually hit go live, you don't know how it actually is going to go out to the world. So we'll see what happens. Caleb says when TLP gets to a few million subs, we should crowdsource a Rocket Lab launch. Well, apparently you guys are crowdsourcing my suborbital flight at 100,000 subscribers because I made that joke, and now you guys are pushing us to almost 50,000 probably by the weekend. So prepare for that GoFundMe to launch. If we can raise $2 to $3 from every subscriber, I will take you all on a suborbital space flight with me, and then we can talk about something orbital after. Remember making that comment as a total joke when we were at like 1,000? I was like, oh, that's like 4 or 5 years down the road. We got time. 3 months later. It'll be interesting. Arias took some samples of Bennu. Yeah, it did. Arias Rex.
Do we
Elon's
know
50. Go for it.
when is DART supposed to reach its target?
September? August? August or September? I'll look it up.
Okay, and do you know, piggyback question, whenever DART reaches its target, will it orbit around it for a while, or is it just like dead on, I'm gonna smack into this thing right now?
It's going straight in.
Okay.
So its mission duration is 11 months is planned. Currently, it's on day 43 and 20 hours. It has that little CubeSat on board, and it's currently...
Okay, Joe says October 24th. That's
Yeah. I've got September 26th, but October 24th sounds like what they said during the broadcast. Because I think they said October because it was delayed slightly from when it was originally going to launch. But the CubeSat that's on board will fly by and then go do whatever it's going to do. Because that'll separate a little bit before the actual impact, so we see it go in. And then the CubeSat will fly by to look at the actual impact spot. And then other satellites and telescopes will track the impact of the movement. Now, we're not talking anything massive. And they check to make sure that, like, no matter how much they hit it, this thing couldn't become an issue for Earth for, like, 1,000,000 years or something, just to make sure we're not kind of causing our own doom. Big part of it that a lot of people didn't realize is that there's actually a secondary part to the DART mission called Hera, which is the European Space Agency side of it, and it was supposed to launch with DART, but it got delayed, so it's actually now launching like 10 months after DART, but they were supposed to actually go together, and it was going to do other investigations and testing apparently and stuff with DART as it impacted, where now it's going to look at it after the impact. So we'll see what happens, but it has to find the big target first, and then it will redirect to go for the little Didymos. I think it's Didymos. One of them's Didymos, and one of them's another name. The big asteroid has a little asteroid, and that's what they're targeting. They're not targeting the big one.
Okay, gotcha. Cool. Or we can just do Don't Look Up style, the new Netflix movie, and just launch what, like they had dozens of rockets all over 39A, just straight up.
No. One, Jeff Bezos is not launching that many rockets at one time ever in his life because that was 100% inspired by him. Two, please don't watch it. It is okay. It's like Sharknado. You're gonna watch it. You're gonna hate yourself for watching it, but you're gonna want a sequel because you just want to know what happens. But
Yeah.
it's a special movie. I love the people in it. I mean, I'll watch anything Meryl Streep's in, but it's a special movie. I see Joe Little said, read this when you see it, and I'll tell... Oh, well, I didn't read it when I first saw it, so a little late. Try it again. Here, I'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, and we'll see how long it takes for that to come in.
Yeah, and also we're not talking about the delay from us talking to it showing up on YouTube. We're talking about the delay from when we're talking and when it looks like we're talking on the video.
Do our mouths... Do the words match the voice coming out of my mouth?
Joe says 4.
4, okay.
There we go. All right. Do we
Hey,
have any
Julian,
other
I see you. Don't think you're blocked for anything. Need name labels. We do have them. If I put us over onto our... Let me not screen share my email. Let's screen share...
our side view?
Yeah, here. We'll screen share the live tracker. That we can do. So this is what's currently happening. So now we have name cards. I totally forgot to put them on the side ones. But we will have those for the future. But we were talking about James Webb, so here is James Webb and its current status. You guys can follow along for us on our 24/7 tracker. We restarted every about 24 to 36 hours, but uh, that is there. It's starting to cool down though. 157, 198, minus 198 Celsius, minus 325 Fahrenheit. I don't think I'd want to touch that. Do we know what the target is? I know it's something in low kelvins, almost zero. But what is
I
that in
have no
Fahrenheit?
idea. I know that they will Fahrenheit. I think they had posted about hydrogen or something close to it and the temperature related to that because I think they said that that's what they were using to stabilize something. I could be talking out of my butt now, but I think they said for that it was something like negative 358 Fahrenheit. So I'm gonna say in the ballpark of there probably.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, two milestones today hit 70% and passed that million-kilometer mark. So that coming up on that 2/3 of the way, or passing that 2/3 of the way mark, and then that primary mirror as that next major milestone that they're looking at. Ryan saying, if Russia invaded France from behind, do you think Greece would help? I'm not sure how that relates to space, so no. Um, let's see.
I
Peter
want to
I
pick
just
this
came back
up.
to give them a second chance because Mars is cool, but what a great answer. See you later.
Joe says in the chat, he actually asked a good question. Do you know when they will do the same pick as the Hubble's famous deep space field picture? They might attempt it. The hard part it's going to be Hubble has mostly its observations in the visible spectrum, and James Webb is mostly infrared. I think it does touch a little bit of visible, but only like in the deep reds. So if they did that photo, which I'm not sure they would do, it would be very, very different. So don't expect them to be like one by one, with one just being higher quality, which is sad, but there should be some other really cool photos coming from it. So don't be too disappointed.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll see those about 5.5 months or so from now. We'll see those first ones start to make their way. Okay, I'm sounds like I'm pretty much lined up. You're about a second slow. That makes sense for how we're patching you in. So we'll see if there's a way to adjust that there. There we go. Joe, minus 378 is 400 or is 45 Kelvin. Okay, so they got a ways to go. Definitely. But I think, yeah, send in any last questions and then we'll wrap it up for episode 000 of the Launch Pod. Let us know in the comments your guys' thought, what you liked, what you didn't like, what you'd change. And then, yeah, join us back here next week for actually episode 1, where we'll actually break down topics. If you are joining us late, you can send any topics you want us to talk about in over on our website at thelaunchpadofficial.com, where the link's in the description for that. And if you have a question or comment that you want read out on the show, that you want to prioritize to make sure you're read first, you can send that in as a super chat, or the best way to make sure your funds are actually going to the Launchpad is through the pinned link through Stream Elements. So it gives you some options there. Jordan, great to hear the mission has been extended from 10 years. Yeah, I'm excited that James Webb is going to get a longer lifespan. I think hopefully we get maybe 15. We'll see. And hopefully by then we'll have a way of refueling it. But we'll have to wait and see. It's that the engines getting close that are the bigger issue. Refueling's not that hard, but we can't really approach the thing without making it freeze over.
Yeah. Oh, I just got asked a question personally. Can I describe what CubeSats are most useful for? Yeah. So typically, whenever we launch rockets, it's for like one massive payload or two massive payloads. But that takes a large rocket, and then you can only launch one or two things at a time. CubeSats are good at being very small. So instead of just sending one big thing or two big things, you can send 50 to 100 of them and have them all do different things for different purposes. So they're a lot cheaper to make, a lot less complex, and a lot more versatile. So akin to the nano satellites I said that they can do on Project Starshot. Those wouldn't be CubeSats; they would be actually much smaller and lighter. But it kind of gives you an idea of when you go smaller and lighter, instead of having the Mars rover or James Webb, well, not James Webb, Mars rover can do a lot of different things in one big package. Why not split it all up so all those things are done in small packages? And that way, if one thing fails, you can still do the rest of it no problem. And then you can replace the thing that failed pretty cheaply and try again. So that's one of the more useful purposes for CubeSats. And that's why they're starting to become more popular now.
That's a great description that I wouldn't have thought of. I haven't thought of it that way, of actually breaking it down in case something breaks. Which, thinking about perseverance is a really good thought, because if perseverance wheels break, then there's an issue. But there's a lot of other stuff on it that they could still be doing science on. So, no,
Yeah,
that
well,
makes sense.
let's say a bunch of dust. Well, no, because it doesn't use solar panels. I don't know. Yeah, like if it has a mission critical error, you can attempt to still do science on some other stuff, but it really like nails and coffin a lot of things. So it just kind of it gets rid of that possibility. So if something goes wrong, whatever. Everything else is 100% nominal for sure.
I guess it's like Curiosity is the one that went before Perseverance, that has like its big holes in its wheels, and they're looking to try to find a rock that's sharp enough to like cut its own wheel like 80% off, because it'll cause less damage if they can amputate it with a rock. So I don't know, but yeah, it's about, I guess, preserving the rest, because if it gets stuck, yeah, there's so much research they can do in one spot, but eventually that research will get not stale, but they don't want research only in one location.
Yeah. Yeah, and Jordan, you actually bring up a good point about CubeSats. They have low cost opportunities for other organizations too. And that's really only kind of possible because of the technology that we have now. If you want to go back 20 years, even for something pretty simple, it would have to be pretty sizable. But now we've got pretty good at making silicon. So you can have a lot of pretty good stuff in a small, cheap package that you can be a university and send up a CubeSat. So good answer too on your end.
Yeah, I'm hoping to connect with our local university that 3 years ago, 2 years ago, they sent up the first CubeSat, and they were the first university in Canada to send up a CubeSat. They went up with a Falcon 9. I think they were on Transporter 1, I think. But they went up, and the Canadian Space Agency looked at them, and now I think there's 14 universities that have CubeSat programs, because University of Alberta, I don't go there, but University of Alberta did the first one. And it's really neat having kind of gone through a presentation by them of everything that they went through to do their testing of, trying to seal it in like Rubbermaid containers, because the universities don't have all these clean rooms that for science to use. So they're trying to seal in Rubbermaid containers and clean it to make sure it's safe to be able to ship it to SpaceX to be ready for integration and different things, and just all the stuff that actually goes into a CubeSat. Though it is a full mission, even though you're talking about something that maybe is the size of a couple toasters, but definitely something that'd be interesting, and we're seeing so much more of. I mean, Artemis has 14 or 23 CubeSats that are hidden in one of the bells that'll get gone. So when Artemis 1 goes, even though really it's just a figure 8 loop test like Apollo 8, it's going to actually still be deploying a lot of other missions, one of which is going to be the largest solar sail we've ever deployed. So when it gets launched, it's the size of a toaster, but once it opens, it's the size of a New York apartment. So it'll be interesting to see that science starting to advance more, and see how CubeSats keep evolving.
Yeah, and for those of you that are unaware, solar sails are actually what I was kind of talking about earlier. Essentially, it's just a very, very thin piece of, I think it's typically aluminum, but it could also be gold foil, to make it incredibly light, but also give a lot of surface area so the solar radiation of the sun can push whatever is attached to that solar sail. So you don't need to have engines or fuel for it to be pushed in one direction and go forward, and then it'll just speed up over time. So it's a good way to use the power of the sun to give you your momentum.
When I was doing some studying on the solar cell they're testing, I believe this one they're studying, I'm probably gonna get the numbers wrong, it's 10 to the power of like 3 for the scale of it, And if they went to 10 to the power of 6, we'd have enough power from the sun on that sail for interplanetary travel. So we're like halfway in the scale of them that they need to scale up to. They've got a bigger one planned for a couple years from now, and it's like 2 more iterations of growing after that, and we can do interplanetary travel with a sail, which will be, I think, interesting to see. That's going to be a big sail, though. Talk about holding your breath when that one deploys.
Yeah, you get a rip and there you go. Kevin, nice. Yeah, a New York size apartment is the size of a toaster. Thank you, W. Hollenbach, for the $2 donation. We are definitely space nerds. I think that's fair to say, right, Zach?
I would hope so. I'm in my basement talking to a computer about space, so and
Yeah,
surrounded by
fair.
rocket models. I think that qualifies.
Yeah.
And I'm 3D printing a starbase tower right now. So I don't think it gets much more space nerdy than that. If you want to see that, you can see a live view on the Discord. But thank you so much for that, W. Hollenbach. Appreciate that there. But I think with that, last thoughts for the night, and then maybe we'll hang out in the Discord a little bit after. But yeah, last thoughts for the night, Ian.
So I want to answer one more quick question before I get to that. Jeff, because you did ask a good question, they do have to do a deceleration to stay in the Lagrange point. Otherwise, they would just fall back to Earth. So it's just a little one, just to kind of keep them stable. But yeah, that's going to happen. So I think that's all the questions. Yeah, I am very glad you had me here. Jordan, yeah, we are going to be doing this every Thursday night at 8 p.m. That is the current plan. Next time is going to be a little bit more professional. Hopefully this wasn't too bad on you guys, though. I really enjoyed being here. You asked some great questions, and I am extremely excited to see where this year in space takes us. There's going to be so much stuff going on. We're going to hopefully try and be at those things. And earlier, somebody had mentioned, yeah, Joe, that he would like to see us both side by side. I'm gonna make that happen. If we do go to Artemis or Starship or anything, we're gonna be there. So look forward, stick with us, and yeah, thanks for having me. This is great.
Well, I'm absolutely stoked to have you as part of our team. I know we talked about this a bit at Inspiration 4, and I was like, we got to do something, but we didn't know what. And this ended up coming together, and I think it'll be a lot of fun. And yeah, I can't wait for us to be in person and hopefully be doing these with a Starship behind us, with a Vulcan or an SLS behind us. We know we're going to be at your launch. Like, we have to be there for that, where we know someone that has a payload on that rocket. That's more exciting than even knowing someone on the rocket from, like, through Twitter with Inspiration 4. No, I'm friends with a guy that's got something on board. That's one step away from me having something on board. So we'll obviously be waiting for that and seeing that first Vulcan. But yeah, we want your guys' feedback in it, good and bad. So you can do that in the comments once the stream ends. That way we can see it after and kind of go through. Lots of things will get cleaned up with, like, name tags that are going to be under our names at all the time, so you know where they are. We're going to try to work on having the questions on screen, and then when we go through our bigger topics, obviously having things that you guys can see and look at as we're relating to them. But for episode 000, I'd say it's worked, and I'm happy about that. This is the first time we've patched someone audio and video into a stream, and other than that slight delay, I'd say it's pretty good, and your guys' questions are amazing. So I thank you guys for taking a chance with us. This is kind of the first pre-episode of season 1, and we're excited to see what's going to happen. It is going to be every Thursday, as Ian said, 8 p.m. Central, 7 Mountain, 6 Pacific, or 9 Eastern, or 2 a.m. UTC. It is, I believe. Our hope is 60 to 90 minutes, but we'll see how weeks go. If there's a lot of space news and questions, then we'll go. If we ever get to the point where we can't go through all your guys' questions, we're going to do something called a companion video or a side video where we will record it and then just upload it to make sure we're going through all the questions that you guys have sent in through that link, through Stream Elements, or as super chats. Those are the ones that will for sure always get answered as long as they're appropriate. But Joe's asking, how are you guys affiliated with NASA? By being fans. And
Yeah,
having visited. Annual pass holder, I guess technically for myself, accredited media temporarily, because that technically expires after every launch. But yeah, just super excited about just space in general. And our motto and mission statement at the launch pad is to inform and inspire the explorers of tomorrow, because we believe space is better together. So we do that through our live launch coverage and our space news updates, but to bring space better together, we want to do it through the launch pod, and we're excited for that. Can you answer more questions at the JW stream if you like? Are there questions on the JW stream? We can answer some after. Yeah, that's a good idea. And then we can do that next week while the stream's still going. We can get some questions from there as well. And we cover everything from NASA to SpaceX to Rocket Lab to Astra to Relativity to Israel to ESA to Rocket Lab to South Korea to Japan. Everybody in between, we'll be talking about them, because altogether that's what's pushing us forward to becoming a multi-planetary body something civilization. We need a better word for that. But that is going to do it for us here tonight. If it was your first time here, hit that subscribe button. It really helps us out. And we will see you guys next week. But for now, this is Ian and Zach signing off. We'll see you next time.
Nice seeing you guys.